So we're now live, we're recording. Hello.
Hi.
I'm not happy with the light, but I think it's okay for today. Last time it was so sunny, it was beautiful, but what can you do? But welcome everyone to our first Once Club weekly podcast, two personal shoppers chatting. This is Ruth. Am I saying it Gebru?
Gebru.
Okay, good, because I like to get the pronunciations correct. It's very rude when it's not. I'm Dominique Rollins, if you don't know who I am. Hello, lovely to meet you. And I suppose two personal shoppers chatting is what it says on the tin. It's Ruth and I have both worked in personal shoppers for some years. Mine's 10 plus, which is why I'm
same.
Same. So we both actually worked at the same establishment, although not at the same time. And we thought this would be a great way to, essentially get a sense of what the Once Club is for, but also to kind of talk about all the things that personal shoppers, I think, tend to always talk about, which is the good, the bad, the ugly, the painful.
Absolutely.
The ridiculous, because it's a shared experience, right?
Exactly. And it's also like talking about things that only other personal shoppers talk to each other about. Like I can talk to my friends about work and what it's like to be like a personal shopper, but they all just stare at me really blankly.
They don't get it that it's not this glamorous thing. And I'm like, no, hun, I was steaming today.
I'm tired.
My favorite was once, I think I did a huge appointment for I won't mention names, but a huge sort of football owner's wife and situation. There was a whole 3-day affair, and I was doing personal shopping through Farfetch, and so I was and how we used to do that at the time was bring in the clothes from boutiques, like request all the clothes in, and then you unpack it all. But obviously this is like multiple pieces, so global boutiques all coming into one place, me unpacking, steaming, and then taking it to the home, doing the appointment. Great. The returns,
yeah,
it took a week. I'm not gonna lie, it took a week. I think, and then I remember sort of that the huge thing with those returns was that it was like the occupational hazard of like paper cuts, having to unpack the boxes, and it was like, that's not glamorous. Paper cuts and sellotape things, and then having to find, there's just never enough DHL slip covers. Like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm sure you did appointments at NAP as well, but having to go to the sample room to collect the crates, muscles that I gained from collecting the crates and putting them into the EOP room and steaming, and the returns. My poor assistants at the time, just shout out to Alex and Jen, who honestly were an absolute dream, because we were just transporting things back and forth, especially.
Say that's already one up that you've got on me. No assistant, just me. If I was lucky, I might beg a favor. I'd be like, please, can you just, Alice, do you have half an hour, or like maybe someone would take pity on me? Can you help? They don't really mean it, but I'm like, yes, please. When they're passing on the way out to lunch, how it would be. They would be checking in.
Catch you really quickly, please. Oh god.
But like, yes, I do need help, and they'll be like, okay, I'll come in half an hour, I'm done, but it's fine, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the appointments were probably the least glamorous thing about being a personal shopper. The logistics that go into creating an appointment, whether in-house or at a hotel or a home, like you said, honestly, how did we not go mad?
Oh, the fear also of taking said items outside of like a non sort of, when it's in the building, it's in the building, right? Or if it's in a place that your boss has sanctioned, but when you're all of a sudden, they're like, hey, get in a cab, take it to this person. Or what I had done in some cases, I had like arranged a courier to take the stuff for me, with the hope that they were going to deliver it there ahead of time. I'm just sweating the whole time. What if it doesn't get there? Then they might call you, we can't get in. What's the code? I don't know the code. I've never been there before, you can never get through to the client at that time because they're having a blow dry or something. And I'm just like, it doesn't matter how much you like plan, there's always this one teeny tiny thing
always
completely overlooked. Which is fine. Like, you get used to dealing with it, like
but the reward is also so much
for sure.
so much higher. It's like the amount of work that you put in. You've now possibly made a friend, you've had dinner with them, you're drinking champagne or whatever in a hotel room while you're doing a fitting or whatever, and before you know it, you've prepared a week or two for a couple of hours that have flown by.
Yeah.
Because you've had so much fun and you've made a huge sale or whatever it is. And then, you go back to steaming it all back and sending it back to the warehouse.
I know, you're realizing that on your way back how unglamorous it's going to be, and that's the thing, you could go out with a client and be out for 4 hours, right? And then you come back at 5 and it's like, how was it? How is it? And you're a little smug.
Yeah.
You're a little,
I got it went
30 grand here, it's fine,
so great.
And then depending on what day, like there's certain times where you think, oh, I can beg that off till tomorrow, but there's certain times when they're like, you can't beg, you have to do it now. And then it's like you take off the heels.
Yeah.
There's a real like unglamorization part of it. But I think I always know when you win, the sale is one thing, but I think I always know when it was really good when either the customer is sending you pictures of the things that they're wearing that you kind of help them select to wear, and when they are next in town, if they don't live in London, and be like, hey, do you want, when I had clients inviting me to their things, being like, hey, come, it'll be fun, I was like, I'm like, oh, you realize I'm doing something right, because because if I was terrible at my job and also a wet weekend, nobody's trying to invite me anywhere, like they don't care, they're not,
they do not care,
they don't need you as a friend like that, so you're just kind of like, okay, so this is a good thing. It's true. You're slightly beyond that kind of service relationship. There's a rapport there. There's a fondness.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a really quick story about my favorite appointment.
Yeah.
It was this was at Net-a-Porter, and the fine jewelry team were showing around some pieces that they'd received from Buccellati, and there was a ring that was a huge turquoise stone, and I was like, oh my god, I have a client for this, I know I do. So I put it on my finger, took a picture of it, sent it on WhatsApp, and the client replied immediately and said, what are you doing right now?
Oh, my favorite.
And I was like, well, I'm in the office and not much, what are you doing?
There's no concept of Monday to Friday also with that client, right? I'm like, in the office. That's what I do.
I'm at work. And I was like, well, what are you doing? Why? Do you want to meet up? And she was like, so I'm actually in hospital.
Oh.
But do you just want to come here and show me the ring? And within an hour of me showing her that ring on WhatsApp, I was in a cab. She met me outside the hospital. We had tea and cake.
Of course.
She tried on the ring and she was like, okay, thank you. And I was like, oh, so what's happening? Are you taking the ring? And she was like, yeah, I'll just pay now. And I was like, great. And I was back in a car. That was probably the easiest appointment I've ever had in my entire life. I was back in a cab, back to the office. And I remember my manager at the time was like, where did you go? And I was like, I was at an appointment. And they were like, what did you do? And I was like, oh, I just sold a 30 grand ring.
Yes.
And I remember just thinking, oh, why aren't all appointments like this?
I know, if only. I had a similar experience with a client. I'd never met her before, but we'd been sort of going back and forth. We'd done some Oscar pieces together, and then she was like, hey, I'm going to be in town, let me do an appointment. So I was like, okay, fine. And so I arranged the appointment. It's all beautifully merchandised, and she's late. And she kind of sort of swans in, and first things first, is there champagne? Thank God I had it. I was like, yes, thank God. So she's like, I've got 30 minutes. And I swear I was just like, what do you mean? Like, we had this whole appointment, and we've got all this stuff. And first of all, God bless her, she was the most, I've never known a client to change so quickly. Like, I am a quick changer. I stopped, in fact, going on shopping trips with my family because they take too long in changing rooms. I'm like, what are you doing in there? So she was just, you know, speed round, like, yep, this in a different color. What other shoes have you got? Show me later. Yep. No, okay. And she, you know, she blitzed through it, all the while still sort of going, you know, trying on a J brand, like, you know, doing the champagne. And then literally in 30 minutes, she was gone. Like, you know, okay, great, just send me. And I said, oh, shall I show you the other pieces? Yeah. I emailed her within like 2 hours. She's like, yeah, I'll take the extra stuff. And it was done. And I was just like you, I just sat there just going, this is a real moment, because this would never happen. I knew it was never going to happen again. There's no other client that's going to be like that. He's just
once in a blue moon client.
Just decisive. And I find that actually very attractive in a client. I'm like, as much as you want to be advising, you don't necessarily want to be agonizing.
Yeah.
Over the, you know.
Oh, I mean, we know that, especially having, you know, the clients that were at NAP, and there were those clients who were super quick, in and out of a changing room, sipping the champagne or whatever, and you're just like, oh, you've helped me help you.
Yeah.
You know, whereas the other ones, and it's like, you know, oh, I really like this shoe, cool, let's try it on. No, I don't like it. Okay. And it's, you know, that kind of struggle where you're just like, do you actually want my help?
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it gets a bit that's where it gets a bit difficult, because it's like, if you don't actually want me, you're not going to get the most out of this service.
Yeah, you have to kind of have an idea. And I think that's where it comes down to, like, I am a big believer in managing expectations, being super transparent and things like that. And I think there's always a professional way to do that. But, you know, after having like training others, I'm always just like, if you don't, I said, a customer's never going to articulate everything for you. So you almost have to kind of anticipate what they might be feeling or saying, and then give them the options, because it's
otherwise a mind reader.
Oh, 100%. And I'm very grateful. I'm not too sure how you started, but how I started in personal shopping was basically not through personal shopping. I did psychology at university. And then I was like, you know, all like, I'm going to be a psychologist. And then I got the Topshop buzz, and I saw that they had this service, and I went, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. It kind of felt like you know, like how they talk about, like, when people join the seminary, it's like a calling. I felt like that was my calling. I was like, and I remember going, okay, I'm going to finish uni, which I did. And then I kind of almost within a year, I think I ended up personal shopping with Topshop, which was the kind of the plan. And thank God I did that psychology degree, because half of it I was like, you've got, you know, not sort of labeling, because that's not what I'm there to do, but it was about understanding behavior. That was the key. You know, it didn't matter how much I knew about fashion. It didn't even matter how much they thought that they needed or wanted this personal shopping to, you know, I was meeting people who really wanted the service, but actually had other issues to deal with that was blocking them from having an amazing experience. Absolutely. And so I realized that was half of my job, to kind of, it wasn't about the clothes, it was about the connections that I was meeting with people. And, you know, luckily that kind of carries on. So you're always trying to basically just kind of understand behavior and understand the difference of people. I mean, that's how I started. And I remember just thinking, my nan was so disappointed that I didn't do psychology, but I said to her every day, Nan, I use it all.
I bet.
Like, I said, it's probably the most valuable thing, like part of the most valuable thing I was ever able to kind of bring to this career is having that knowledge. So absolutely. But how did you get into personal shopping? I don't know, because I just know you from
accidentally. Well, the thing is I actually left school at 18 and studied English, history and theology. So did like philosophy and ethics, and you know, I'm a history buff and all of that stuff. And
I actually love history as well, just a side note.
I absolutely loved it. And then I turned 18 and I was like, no, I am going to go traveling for 6 months. I went on a gap year with the promise to my mum that I would come back and go to uni. Sorry. And I just didn't.
Broken, right?
I just did not go to uni. And I always found that people were saying to me, oh, Ruth, what do you think I should wear with this? Or what can I wear with this? Or do you think I should buy this? Do you think this color suits me? And I'm like, why are you all asking me? And you know, I found that people were trusting me for that. And I mean, this was 18, 19, whatever. So I was like, maybe this is a thing. I don't know. I mean, I've always loved fashion. And, you know, in my bio, I said that my mum's probably the most glamorous person I know. She will wear red lipstick just to go and get milk. Like, that's just the kind of person that she is.
I love that. I love that philosophy. I do find that I do, like, if I'm feeling rubbish and I put on a red lip and I have my nails done, I'm halfway there.
This is it. Everything changes. And so I started interning while I was so this is when interning was for free. This is how old I am. And this is how long I've been in the industry. But I started interning for free while I was working at Beyond Retro.
Did you work at Beyond Retro?
Yeah.
Oh, the money I have spent there.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh.
It actually really started my love for thrifting.
Yeah.
For buying vintage clothing and secondhand clothing, because I was like, this is great. And so I was so I worked like 7 days a week for like 3 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like interning, I was assisting a stylist, and we did really big things. She was styling Liane La Havas at the time.
Ooh.
We shot with Rankin, we did Sunday Time Star, like all of this stuff. And I was like, this is really fun. But I realized that I wanted to be interacting with people. Like, I wanted to be the stylist. And I'd never really known of personal shopping. And then I applied for a job at Harvey Nichols, but for menswear.
Oh, cool.
And they were like, do you want to be a stylist? And I was like, oh my God, someone heard me. And I was like, yeah. So I was a stylist at Harvey Nichols for about 1.5 years. And then a client actually very kindly recommended me to Nap.
Oh, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so her personal shopper was Steffi.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Full circle.
Full circle. And obviously Steffi was being promoted into client relations, so they had a position available. Awesome. And the client was like, do you want to go work at Net-a-Porter? And I was like, do I?
Yeah.
So she got me a meeting with Reno, and the rest is history.
Oh, I love that. And I love that we're just name dropping, like everyone knows who all the names are, but I don't care. I just like, it's like if you know, you know. I think that's amazing. I love that it was a client as well that kind of really got it and saw it and was like, by the way, because I think that also goes to show you how many relationships are being formed within clients, because obviously she's making connections here and going, actually, I can put out a word for you. I actually know of a job. Like, how else would you know that in any other type of like customer consultant, you know, relationship that's not normal. But I think that's a great way to join. So you joined the team when it was sort of like, I think it was I'd left, I think, earlier that year, and everyone was talking about the merger.
Oh my God, Dom. So I started, this kills me now, still now to this day, absolutely kills me. I started on the 1st of September 2015.
Oh my God.
2nd of December, September even, Natalie Massenet resigned.
No, stop. Dying.
And I was like, are you joking? I've just come to Net-a-Porter for you.
Oh no, that would have killed me.
I've never known Nap without ŌNCE.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so interesting, because I think there's all these different little pillar points or what have you, depending on where you work. I mean, some people have worked there throughout everything, which is cool. But it's so funny because there was so much talk around it before I left, and I actually remember there was an email that went out, and they were like, "It's not happening. Don't worry. Blah blah blah. There's no merger." And then I left for Farfetch anyway, just because I wanted to have like a new.
Yeah.
I really had that. I kept hearing about all these stories of like when Net-a-Porter first started, and I was like, I really want to be part of something like that, where I can be involved in everything, you know, because I was having touch points, but it wasn't the same. And so when,
how long were you at Nap?
4 years.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So like almost just, I was going into my 5th year, but hadn't been 5 years yet. Right. And I remember when that email comes out and she's resigning, and I was like, I did feel a bit relieved then, because I remember thinking like so much of what Net-a-Porter was, from my opinion, was Natalie Massenet. I mean, there were days where we would be going in and like, you know, it's tough, it's relentless, you know, you have targets, you have demanding clients sometimes, and also just in like any other workplace, it's politics as well. But, you know, you would have like a little, Natalie Massenet would put in so much effort into kind of valuing the staff, in the sense of, you know, the summer parties and the presentation and the Christmas parties. But especially the summer presentations, I mean, we would sort of go in, I remember sort of one of the last ones I did, I think we got too big for the other places, so they ended up having us at Wembley Arena. It was crazy.
Wow.
There was so much staff, and, you know, they do the presentation there, so you all kind of convene, and I, you know, and I just remember sort of, and she had all these old pictures from when she'd first started, from like, you know, her kitchen and her old tosh with post-it notes, and it was just, and, you know, she was so appreciative of where they'd come from and where they were. And I think at that point, you know, I mean, I think this had happened a couple of times. She'd started crying, and then I'm crying, and I'm looking around, and my team members are also, you know, especially the ones who never cry. They're like,
yeah.
You really felt like you were part of something, and I think that was super cool. But I think there was something definitely special, and even now there's something really special about being like, I'm a Net-a-Porter personal shopper, and people, because people know what that is. And I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this great I guess Jerry Seinfeld does this podcast type thing called Driving Around.
I've heard of it, yeah.
And he just takes his comic friends in his, you know, cool car collection, and then they get coffee, and he does one with Julianne Dreyfus, and she is I think they're talking about shopping, and then she talks about like Net-a-Porter and how she gets annoyed because everything's always sold out, and he was like, oh no, but aren't you an EIP? And he referenced, and she's like, no, what is this? And she's like, oh, you know, my wife has it, and they tell her 48 hours before. And it was like he was telling her about the EIP service. And then so much so that there was almost kind of this outcry that, how come Julianne Dreyfus is an EIP? And I think Alison Lotus actually reached out to her publicly and was like, you're now EIP. Was like, it was like, and I was like, this is genius. Like, they didn't even need publicity, but it was just so crazy. But that's when you really knew it was like, this was powerful, this was huge. And people understand like that's personal shopping. But when I first started, I remember, you know, and I sort of came up through the ranks in the sense that I started off with a non-personal shopping team, but it was still adjacent. And I kind of started to kind of be accustomed with the team, because they were really small at the time. I think there was like 4 when I first started, 5, you know, it was a really small tight-knit personal shopping team. And we kind of would, as a sort of fashion advisor, would kind of supplement that to a certain extent. And so when they did events, they just didn't have enough people to do like these kind of, you know, Centurion events where they'd have like lots of people over. And I started going, yeah, I'll do the event. I'm so eager, you know. And it was cool because you get to go to the office. I like to do all that stuff. And I started kind of ingratiating myself a little bit with the Lupe, like, hey, you know, because I really wanted to be in the team. You know, like, hi, you know, I'll do the events. But that's when you
Beanos, honestly.
Yeah. But when you first started, and I had really no direction. I was just kind of following, I think, breadcrumbs, and just some little, you know, and just essentially just trying to be friendly, which is what I was anyway. But I just really was just like, you know, if you want more information, you're going to have to figure out a way to do that, because there was no real way. Like you said, you didn't really know about personal shopping when you start. You don't know how to get into it, you don't know how to navigate it. You know, when you see personal stylists, we see the kinds of, you know, a June Ambrose or a Rachel Zoe, or, you know, and that's a very different type of stylist. It's still very valuable, but when you're doing red carpet styling and editorial styling, it's very different to sort of personal shopping.
Absolutely.
In the sense of it's a different view, it's a different animal, and there's just no information. There's no way to navigate it. And I was really struck by how you know, now that I look back, I'm really struck by, I might have been somewhere else or a little bit further along in my career if I'd had the tools or the people around me to, or even just knowing to have the confidence to ask for certain things or to ask to speak to certain people. But, you know, that comes with time and putting yourself in positions. So which is why I'm so glad that we're doing this podcast, and whilst we're kind of, you know, starting the ŌNCE Club, because I'm hoping it's going to really support lots of you know, people who are in their careers, in the middle of their careers, even maybe towards the end, but also people who are joining. Because one thing I used to love to do is, like, I worked at Topshop personal shopping first, and some of the girls, they were all like, you know, college girls and stuff. I mean, even at 23 I felt super old, and they were like, Dom, can I come and like shadow you for a day, because I might want to do this for fun, because they also didn't know, like, no, there's no career track for personal shopping. It's very editorial and fashion based, design based. There's nothing, right? And I was like, yeah, sure, come and just do it, because I knew that that's what I needed 3 or 4 years ago, and no one had been there. And even when I got to Net-a-Porter, you know, and you think, oh, I'm in now, and I was still trying to kind of pursue more styling, and they were like, no, again, like, it was very kind of, because everyone kind of feels like you just got there, like it's almost imposter syndrome. But so you don't necessarily want to be like giving other people tips, right? So whereas I think now, like, having platforms like, I mean, social media in general has opened up the world for that, but having a platform that's dedicated to personal shoppers is cool, because, you know, that's why we're all there essentially, is to share, connect,
absolutely,
right?
And also, you know, just taking it back to kind of my first maybe 6 months at Net-a-Porter, I would not be the personal shopper that I am now if it wasn't for having that kind of, that tiny community of mentors. So Fatou, Panos, Kunders, and the likes of Tim and Andrew and all of these guys, to kind of be like, babe, this is how you do it. What are you doing? No, do this, and, you know, and they definitely helped me bridge the gap between the bricks and mortar physical, you know, e-commerce, digital world. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have lasted at Net-a-Porter, because Net-a-Porter is tough.
Oh yeah.
As a personal shopper, oh my God, if you're not making targets and all of this stuff, and, you know, there's a reason it's world renowned, you know, there's a reason that everybody knows it. And maybe I'm biased, but they do have the most powerful personal shopping team.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it's so funny that you say that, like, having like just the small people, because I was the same. I mean, I came in as this sort of adjacent and then worked up, and I remember at the time that they incorporated a progressive structure finally. So when I got promoted, I had to be an assistant first, and even though 3 months later everyone became personal shoppers, but anyway, I was still an assistant. But honestly, thank God I was the assistant, because I actually got to see, because the admin side of what people don't talk to you about is the admin, like the lists and the strategy and the returns, and because that was most of my job for a long time as being an assistant. I really got to learn how to manage my time, manage my priorities, under promise and over deliver, and, you know, really work in the background. I kind of felt like I got something really that not even now. I think there's a lot of personal shoppers, everyone kind of gets thrown into a deep end, so there's a lot to say for when you do get to work your way up and kind of see a few roles, see a few different things, and all, you know, you come in kind of when things are again starting to open up, so you get lots of support and everyone's kind of relaxing into their roles, right? So there's so much to learn from so many different people. And you know, you're speaking about Steffi the other day, and I remember when she first started, she came in as a junior, super new, super green, but like the craziest amount of energy, and I mean, it was amazing. And she sat next to me because she was learning sort of under Reno. I think that at the time we did 3 months assisting someone, so she was assisting Reno, and but she happened to sit next to me, so, you know, I'm showing her things when Reno's not there, and I'm doing things for her, blah blah blah, but she was also showing me things, and I love that. And I was like learning off of someone who had just started, and, you know, having someone who's bilingual, for example, teaches you a whole new perspective of how to deal with clients, how to deal with different types of clients as well, because it's a lot more nuanced than having to switch between Spanish, German, English, and what that looks like, and how to kind of really attack new things. You know, Steffi came from a very sort of corporate background with BMW, so she was a whiz at spreadsheets, and she taught me
something. I've never seen anything like it.
And I came from doing Excel at psychology, like, and having to use Excel and hating it. And she came in and she was like, just do this. And I'm like, she changed my life. She changed my life because I was spending so much time correcting files when I didn't have to. I could do the little formula stuff, and she'd be like, you know, voila, done. I was like, oh my God, changed my life.
I love your impression of Steffi, because it's so on point. It is literally just like, darling, just do it, and she just does it, and you're like,
done.
Oh,
it's my favorite. And it was just, but it was important that, you know, I think that's half of as well the job, like, continue to learn.
Yeah,
you always think that you can learn something from someone else, whether they're younger, newer, from a different country, less experienced. I think there's always a learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somewhere, which, you know, I'm thinking that we can definitely unpack in weeks to come. But, you know, believe it or not, Ruth, it's been 30 minutes.
Oh my God, this is the thing when two personal shoppers, you put them in a room or a virtual room together, and honestly, the stories that we have are just never ending.
Well, my boyfriend actually stopped coming to, like, events. I think, you know, used to do little soirees, and he would sort of have, you know, us industry peeps together, you know, we'd have some Harrods and Selfridges, you know, and it was always kind of different every time. And I brought Dan once, and then after that he was like, I'm not coming. And he goes, and I said, why? And he goes, everyone's great, but all you guys talk is shop. And it's like, I can't help it. He was like 4 hours of just fashion and a porte and this, and I was like, and I don't notice it because I suppose it's like, that's a fun subject for me.
But also it's like, oh, this person understands, so I'm going to talk to them, and that's it, you know. Just like, it's a way of venting and, you know, letting it all out, because like we said, I can't talk to my mum about it. She's like, you get to play with clothes all day, shut up.
Yeah, I know. And that's what it is. So so I suppose maybe this will also be like some therapy for us coming.
I think so.
And we should have some special, I think we should definitely get in some special guests.
Yes.
Other NAP alumni types, I think, to share the stories. And also I think it's a great place to continue to kind of use what our shared experience have meant, what they've taught us, because hopefully, you know, there's people who might be like, oh, I can use this and
absolutely
benefit me. But this has been fun. I've loved it.
It's been fun. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.